Ronnie, firstly, welcome to Coffee with the Editor with Railways Africa magazine. Exciting news, and it took place towards the end of June. You guys have signed a contract with the government of Ghana with regards to their regional railway corridors. Do you want to take me through that and take me through who's involved and what the project actually involves?
It is, I think, as you said in your introduction, it's been a very interesting journey for us. Maybe if I can take you through a little bit of kind of what we've been through since a while ago. I think we've had interaction with Railways Africa for many years. So we've recognized definitively that the railway sector in Africa is a big developmental opportunity for the continent to connect. As you know better than we do, the continent of Africa is still primarily bulk commodities for export, both mineral and agricultural, and for import, fuel and containers. And it's generally speaking over very long distances. And we are certain that railways is a better proposition to move that freight, and then on top of that add passenger possibly than any other form of transportation. So we've been committed for many years now to the railway sector, and where we started was with our rolling stock leasing business, where we financed rolling stock. We have a partnership with the Industrial Development Corporation and have a fleet of locomotives and wagons that we've exported to a number of countries on the continent. What we also realized as a result is that there's a big gap also in the space of developing new corridors and operating those corridors and skills. So what we sought to do is then to work to close that gap as well, because to lease rolling stock on its own is really but one dimension of railways. To build railways is also one dimension. What we wanted to do is have a fully comprehensive offering to governments in order to lift that capacity on the continent. So we then partnered with Deutsche Bahn, which is the leading railway company, arguably globally, certainly dominate Europe in both freight and passenger, short and long distance. And they have a depth of expertise. They've had 180 years of experience in the railway sector. So that partnership has been very strategic for us. That sorts out our technical capacity to do the work we wanted to do on the continent. And then beyond the technical intensive nature of railways is also capital intensive. So hence the agreement with the Africa Export-Import Bank in order to close the capital intensive or the capital mobilization space. So what we are offering the continent now and governments is a comprehensive solution that has a depth of offering technically and the depth of offering in terms of financing.
So let's talk specifically Ghana.
Yes.
And the press release read that it's yourselves and Transtech.
Transtech.
Okay, so who is Transtech?
Correct. So Transtech is a local Ghanaian company, an engineering company with whom we have worked to conceptualize the proposition to the government of Ghana. Transtech has done a number of projects in Ghana, not in the railway space, a couple of engineering projects in road and other sectors, but depth of engineering skill. They're serving as our local partner on the ground in Ghana, with whom we're going to execute this project in partnership with the government of Ghana.
You're going to be doing project management.
Yes.
Engineering, design, implementation. And then when we're talking about regional railways, we're talking about connecting cities within or areas within Ghana.
Yeah. So the project is as follows, is that there's an existing corridor called the Western Corridor. And the reason the Western Corridor is strategic, well, Ghana, if you look at the position of Ghana, it's incredibly strategic, very stable country over many years. So from a capital mobilization and deployment, very attractive, which was exciting for us. The Western Corridor, if you look at the geography and geology of Ghana, most agricultural and mineral resources sit on the western side of the country, that is Ghana. So that corridor exists but is in a state of disrepair, so to say. So what we've agreed with the government of Ghana is basically to modernize that entire corridor and then to build branch lines into areas where there's mineral deposits and agricultural deposits. What does modernize mean? The capacity, as I was saying earlier, the capacity that we're bringing to the continent of Africa is the ability to carry a project from feasibility study to design and engineering to project management, which includes construction oversight to make sure that it's to standard. And then after that, to do testing and commissioning below rail and above rail, and then operations and maintenance. But importantly, in that value chain for us is also that we are committed to training local Africans in the area of railways. That means from blue-collar train driver all the way through to executives for the railway sector. Our ambition is quite broad for the continent. So what we will need as Thelo DB is a cadre, a mass cadre of people that can operate our various projects. So it is in our absolute interest, as much as it is in the interest of Ghana or any other country that we're working with, to have people trained and employed. It's also in our interest as a railway company to have people that we have trained and developed to a certain standard who can support us in the operation of these projects. So it's a full spectrum of a solution.
All right, so it's quite close to build, operation, transfer, just there's no transfer involved.
Well, there is transfer involved. At the end of the period, we would have to transfer that infrastructure to the government.
Okay, so BOT.
Yes, correct.
All right, so with that in mind, and then obviously, you know, you guys are in South Africa as well, so you are no stranger to the state of our local industry. It's really exciting that you've got this huge big project there, and that you will be stimulating Ghana's economy at the same time. Will you be looking at local South African suppliers to assist you? Everything from, you know, the supply of track and clips and you know, steel and tamping, and please tell me you're going to stimulate my sector.
You're absolutely right. And we spent a long time trying to figure out what our model would be. So the way we've structured this model is that we are sort of the arrowhead in the development of a railway project and the implementation of a railway project and the operation of a railway project. And you know, the supply chain in terms of the railway sector is massive. Our argument for years and years has been consistent that the railway sector or development of railways in South Africa and on the continent represents a massive opportunity for the South African industrial value chain. We could achieve massive development both for any country that we operate in, and South Africa, which is already advanced, historically has really enviable capacity and experience within the railway sector. So our ambition is, as an arrowhead, to then mobilize the supply chain within the railway sector. We certainly can't do everything, definitely, but what we can do is drive the project front end and do the execution and implementation of the project and operations, but we do need suppliers across the stream that you talked about.
So how do suppliers get involved? I think it's quite important that we set the tone now. You're in there, the MOU is signed, you're going to be starting. How do we get the pipeline of supply ready? So are you going to set up a public procurement environment? Are you going to be issuing tenders? Are you going to be doing a little bit of a survey on who's got capacity to supply what locally? Give me a footprint and let's execute this.
I love your focus. So the fact is this: yes, we've signed with the government of Ghana. We're working on financing models and raising the capital, finalizing the raise of the capital definitively for the project in Ghana. with the support currently of Deutsche Bahn, who have experience in this for years and years all over the world, we're going to obviously set up, the quality for us will matter. It's one issue that we won't compromise. The second issue that we will never compromise is transparency. So what we will do is set up well-considered procurement processes. It's likely that we'll have to go to tender. You know what the tender processes involve. It's really just the best suppliers. We also would like to emphasize Black empowerment in our supply chain. We also, as important, is for us to emphasize domestic supply, in-country suppliers as well. Because my own philosophy is that it wouldn't be right for us to parachute all sorts of services and skills. We have to develop domestic capacity as well. And we're committed to that. I
believe that, with the development that has taken place in Ghana, certainly over the last, let's say, 6 years, they really have been quite focused on their railways. And you can see that with their 2 rail ministries, and we've done quite a few interviews. What does the supply base in Ghana look like? I mean, is there fixed, is there already like a railway supply chain there, or albeit not as developed? And I ask this because I see that there are locomotives coming from China, and I'm just wondering if there is opportunity for South African suppliers to actually go set up facilities in Ghana. So that's the one aspect. And then, if I'm not mistaken, they have, because of their investment in rail, they've got things like factories that are manufacturing sleepers as well. Maybe just contextualize the landscape there for me.
To tell you factually, our technical colleagues will have to spend time on the ground in Ghana understanding the lay of the land in terms of supplier capacity. That's the first. The second part to that answer is that there is some work that is happening in Ghana today in terms of constructing railways. So there has to be some there are construction companies that are doing work on various corridors currently as we speak on the ground in Ghana. So there has to be some semblance of a value chain. What we would like to do is really lift that scale and size and breadth-wise. We would obviously be inclined to say we would prefer to source first from capacity on the ground, just in the context of also developing that capacity in Ghana. One, because these are very long-term projects. As you know, railways is very long-term. There's a lot of capital involved and therefore needing to mobilize a whole stream of supply. So there is a real proposition to setting up on the ground, international suppliers to set up on the ground. Again, my own wish, because we're also looking at other jurisdictions in terms of development of projects, as an African business, our own wish is that more and more there's capacity domestically in different countries that can service an integrated value chain to supply into the railway sector in the different jurisdictions that we get involved in.
And then obviously, you're also, I wouldn't want to say up against, but I mean, are you going to be interacting with the likes of Transnet, who also have a project or who are also working in Ghana?
Transnet obviously are well ahead of where we are. They're the big company in railways in Africa. We are convinced that there's a proposition of working together, and we really would like to work with Transnet as we would like to work with other railway companies on the continent of Africa.